I'm going to move to point number 8. Most people have a retirement portfolio that is not keeping up. So Yelisey, in our office, my licensing is all the safe investments. Your licensing is all the risky investments, or investments, I should say, at risk. But one of the things that we do see is people's portfolios not keeping up. So sometimes we're having conversations with people, or at least, you are in our meetings, about they have too much risk. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with somebody about not having enough risk. So she is 73 years old, and she likes safety, but she had 65% of her money in bond funds that over the last 5 years have had a loss. They've actually not made any money. And, one of the things, Yelisey, I'll let you touch on, but the performance of bonds has not been great lately. Can you touch on that for a second?
Yeah, and I think the bigger problem is, when we ask prospective clients or people who are looking for a second opinion, like, how much time and effort has your advisor taken to get to know you, to understand what your specific goals and objectives are, and how much time have they put into the solution, making sure that matches what you're hoping to accomplish in retirement? And there's a huge disconnect. And like every time we do a second opinion, like it doesn't really take much effort at all to find these inefficiencies within somebody's portfolio. Like they're telling us one thing, but their portfolio doesn't match what they're telling us. And I think if anyone doing even a halfway decent job were to take a little bit of time, they could identify these things and make improvements on behalf of their clients. And sometimes, it's a matter of, do you have too much equity or bond exposure, too little one way or the other. Sometimes it's being overexposed to certain industries and sectors. I talk about this all the time. And sometimes it's just, assuming too much risk in one way or another, or paying too much in fees. And that's one of the places that we like to start. Obviously, we not only do we review investments, but also just like your overall plan, making sure you're drawing from the correct places, and that you're aware of the taxation and all the various things that go into planning for your income in retirement.
Well, I think the other thing is most people, I think especially Minnesotans, tend to be loyal people. And it's great to be loyal, but I think sometimes we can be loyal to a fault. And what I mean by that is you've worked with your advisor for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you've never had a second opinion just to make sure that your guy is still doing the best that can possibly be done. And for a lot of people, that's confirming that he or she is, but some people don't realize that they're in an older model of investing, or there was somebody that has fallen asleep and hasn't made any adjustments on their portfolio in a long time, and adjustments should have been made. So that's amazing.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, so it's worth having a second opinion. And I think one of the things I love about what we do is we're certainly not perfect, but we're genuine. But we tell people all the time, hey, your advisor's doing a great job. But we also run into where people's advisors are not doing a great job. The advisor knows that you've been with them. They assume that you're not leaving. So they may not be giving you the attention that you need and deserve.
There's definitely a lot of complacency in one of the things that we hear from people all the time is, hey, I haven't heard from my advisor in like a year or 2 years. Yeah. And I'll just let you know that the quickest way to hear from your advisor is to hire us and move your assets together. I can almost guarantee that they'll call you. And, I say that jokingly, but I can't tell you how often that happens.
I can't tell you how often somebody says, man, I didn't realize what I wasn't getting. And then when they leave, doesn't matter if they have $500,000 or $2 million. A lot of times the advisor they had doesn't notice for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year. And then he'll call and say, hey, what happened to you?
Those are always fun 6 months later.
Yeah. Point number 9. I think this one's actually really interesting. Over 35% of retirees still have a mortgage at age 65. One of the things I want to say is I think there's a lot of things out there that's not necessarily misinformation, but it's not the best information. So let me give you an example. Almost every week, I'll have somebody come in and they'll say, we still have a mortgage. And they say it almost like they're embarrassed by it, or they failed and they should have had it paid off. And I'll tell you, is it nice to have your mortgage paid off in retirement? Of course it is. The less debt, the better. However, there's a lot of people that they've done such a good job saving. They borrowed money at the right time, like many of us, where their interest rate is 2.5% or 2.75% or 3%. And their investments are averaging 8% or 10% or 12%. If you have a 3% mortgage and your portfolio retirement is well funded, I wouldn't necessarily take a chunk of money out of an account that maybe it's in a money market at fixed at 4 or 4.5 or 5% and go pay off a mortgage that's at 2.7%. For a lot of you, that borrowed money is almost free. And obviously what I mean by free is it's very inexpensive. So I tell people all the time, if you have a mortgage and your interest rate's under 3%, quit making extra payments. You'll likely never see that again. In fact, you're probably going to wish that you could double what you're borrowing at 3%. And so I just want to encourage you, just because you still have a mortgage doesn't mean you failed, or doesn't mean you failed in planning for retirement. In fact, that might be a great financial decision, especially if you're an efficient portfolio, even a moderate conservative portfolio that maybe has been averaging 7-8% or more over the last decade. So don't be discouraged because you still have a mortgage. In fact, some of our clients that are in the best position still have a mortgage.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I think we have to wrap it up for this podcast. But yeah, it's a little bit more complicated and than simply saying, "Hey, debt bad, mortgage bad." There's more nuance to it than that, and I know sometimes we're just conditioned to think in those terms. We've always heard that this is the right way to do it, or this is something I need to avoid. And really, when you have a conversation with someone like Trey or myself, who have these conversations on a daily basis, we can help dissect what makes the most sense for you and your specific situation.